Communication Council of Radnor Township. There are no announcements other than I'd like everybody to know that we met with Comcast representatives this morning to discuss the outstanding issues of Radnor Studio 21 and the renegotiation of the franchise agreement. We have a commitment from Comcast that they will respond by next Friday to a proposal that we made for Comcast to replace certain equipment in Radnor Studio 21. That's a contractual obligation under the existing franchise. So we will get a response no later than next Friday, and they are, I believe, predisposed to starting to renegotiate the contract. So I think that'll be forthcoming. We haven't given them a formal proposal, and they need to get their approvals from headquarters. So that's an announcement, which flows into a report from Radnor Studio 21 with George Strimmel, the general manager, who was representing Studio 21 at the meeting this morning. The floor is yours, George.
Well, it'll be rather short, since I think you've said most of the important salient moments. I'll go back to sort of what we do as part of our fulfillment of our mission, that right now we're over at the Villanova Conference Center covering a Chamber of Commerce meeting and awards, and that's the sort of thing we do. Yesterday we were at the library. Tomorrow we'll be out doing some other things at Villanova Conference Center with our local newspapers. We're doing that with, in effect, one functioning camera. That same camera now is brought back into the studio. It becomes our studio camera. To say that it's ludicrous is an understatement. It's very hard to fight battles without bullets, and that's what we're doing. But we are doing our very best. We have a very able intern this year, this summer from Eastern, as well as the staff we have. Things will now get a bit quiet as the summer goes through, but we are still in the broadcasting business. We are there 168 hours every week with programming, and for instance, we still try to enable people to do the Little League coverage and all of the things that we are known for and will continue to be known for. Library coverage, you name it, we do it. As much as possible with that single camera. I have been tempted to call it Cyclops television, but obviously that wouldn't be indicative of the future. But I would like to yield my time in true parliamentary presence to the chairman of the board of Radnor Studio 21, Jack Brooks, if such is allowed parliamentary.
Parliamentary, you got it, George.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Jack.
Well, here we are again, and I think it's 2 months since I last addressed some of the concerns and issues that we had with Radnor Studio 21. I just wanted to share with you our board meetings this week, and certainly our board is concerned that George has to try to cobble together our TV studio under the conditions that it is, and we certainly are fortunate in Radnor Township to have somebody as gifted and as passionate about television and public access television as George is. And our board is a board that we feel we're also fiduciaries of good people's money. Annually, for the last 7 years, we've run the Taste of Radnor, a way that we can raise our own funding to help support the television studio. We have wonderful people that produce programming on the studio and come to use our studio and learn also, as the interns have tried to learn. The problem is, as a fiduciary, you have to be careful with the money, and we feel that oftentimes we're trying to be careful with money that is not our debt and not our obligation. And I'm glad to hear that this morning there was some movement on that point. But the point I need to make to you is the board unanimously approved an emergency fund to George this week to fix a television camera, because if we have one more television camera go down, we're a radio station not a television station. So while I'm happy that this is moving in the right direction, it has not been the great corporate citizen of Comcast for 8 years. And I feel very strongly about that. And while I don't mean to sound abrasive with that, it's been the result of me trying to also intervene with predecessors and other people as this has gone drifting along. So sometimes you hit the point where you simply cannot have it go on anymore, and I know and understand and greatly appreciative that you understand that as well and are moving in that direction. So as we go forward, you know, it is our good citizens' money that has gone in to try to help bring us to a state-of-the-art studio, moving forward to the future in a digital age that was the switch last week, and we just feel that the studio and your township deserves the same. We need to move the studio in the digital age, and we're more than happy to hear whatever proposals are made to try to bring us up to where we feel we should have been for many of the past years. I'll open it to any questions.
Oh, Jack, I just want you to know we made a point of bringing out to Comcast the concern of the producers of Radnor Studio 21, and that you know, they have our full support, and I think the message has finally rung home with them. And I would certainly expect a substantive comment by next Friday.
I certainly wait for it and am ready to serve in any way we can in a response.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Jack. The next report is Comcast. Do we have a representative from Comcast? I guess they feel they fulfilled their representative obligation this morning. And, well, at least that was a substantive meeting. Verizon.
Hello, everyone. John Strasser from Verizon, filling in for Stephanie. Again, she's on vacation tonight. And really, my update is going to be very short because since the last time I met with you, I really have no updates from Verizon, and would just open myself up to any questions that you guys would have for us.
I got a letter from Verizon, and it's in Arabic. Could you read that for me by any chance?
That I do know. Did you not get another? There should have been an English version along with that.
Is that right? I would have
But
no way of knowing that it was a translation.
It does have to do with a Verizon channel change in regards to the Arabic channel.
Oh, it's the Arabic channel,
Yes.
okay.
So, for those who would have
I feel
been
a lot
watching
better
that channel,
now.
they might have been able to read that. But there should have been an English letter that went along with that.
Okay. I'm sure it's self-explanatory if you could read Arabic. So are there any problems from Verizon's standpoint in the Radnor franchise? You're totally built out now, is that right?
I'm not totally sure about that, but I could check back. If Stephanie has told you that in the past, I'm sure.
Are we
that would
aware
be
that
true.
I don't think we've ever been officially notified.
Notified?
Yeah.
I can.
Fully built out. And
Yeah,
I don't know what the exact date is, but we're pretty close.
Yeah, I heard it was, but could you verify that your build-out obligation under the franchise agreement has been fulfilled?
I will do that. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Verizon? Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Under old business, the ordinance changing the name of the Cable Council and related issues. Steve? Steve
Good
is the
evening.
Township representative.
With regards to the revisions of the wireless communications device ordinance, the steps as given to me by Mr. Granger and Mr. Rice are as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, July 6th at 7 p.m. here and review the ordinance, go over it, and approve, hopefully, the ordinance. At that point, they will then refer to the Board of Commissioners, and it'll be advertised. The Board of Commissioners will propose it at their meeting on Monday night, July the 20th. That'll be the first reading of it, and then if there's no objections, it will be adopted and approved and adopted at the Board of Commissioners meetings on Monday, August the 17th. The Planning Commission is asking for one or more of the Cable Communications Council members be present at the meeting on Monday, July the 6th, to answer any questions they have regarding the ordinance.
On July the 26th?
It's July the 6th. It's a Monday night, 7 p.m. here.
Okay.
So if you'll let me know who will be attending, I will let the Planning Commission know.
Okay. In lieu of that being approved, can we act as though it were approved?
No. Mr. Rice, our township solicitor, said that any pending application should be acted on with the existing rules and not delayed because of the impending ordinance.
So
once
that
again,
sounds like we can act.
you can act on existing rules right now. But until that ordinance change goes into effect on August 17th, we, business as usual with existing rules and regulations.
Okay, so T-Mobile is in tonight, and we're going to review their requests. My assumption is we can evaluate those, approve them, and refer them to
And
the
refer them
planning-
on, yes. We
Okay.
can do that.
Okay, that's all I was interested in. Are there any questions on the ordinance? Anybody? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Okay.
New business is the application of T-Mobile. I understand now that this is a second or an additional request, the first one having been made some weeks ago. Yes, sir. Some months ago, some years ago, some time ago.
If I can comment, Mr. Glynn?
Yes, please.
At the end of last meeting, we had requested that Mr. Petroza come back and speak on the first application that they put in. The commission wanted a more general outline of the entire scope of what T-Mobile had in mind of placing more of these units around the township. So that was the first reason that Mr. Petroza was asked to be here tonight.
And the result-
After that, the second application came in, so
Okay.
that just brings you up to date.
Okay.
You
Good
have the
good
floor.
evening. Don Petrosa, representing the applicant T-Mobile. I believe that we were here on April 15th, 2009, on the application for a proposed wireless communications facility at Bryn Mawr Avenue near Mallon Road. And we really made a full presentation at that time on that particular application. I was asked to come in and talk about T-Mobile's plans generally for the township. And there are a couple of witnesses who are on the way. I talked to them, and I pretty much know what the statements would be, I think, from the radio frequency engineer, and I'm prepared to address that. And then I guess after that, we can move on and talk about the other one. The only rings that, ring meaning an area that needs to be filled, that have been issued by T-Mobile that we're aware of are the ones that have been before the council so far, including the one on April 15th and the other one tonight. I'm not aware of any other proposed Pico pole installations that are pending. And I haven't seen the new ordinance, but I'll have to take a look at the proposed ordinance and see what that does for the future. There are a couple of other sites that T-Mobile does have that I was either involved in previously or will be involved in the future, and I can just talk about those a little bit. One was at Villanova University in one of the existing buildings on Ethan Avenue, which was approved quite some time ago. I don't think it's on air yet. There was some issue with the university and the company that manages their cell sites, and they're, I think, still trying to work that out. I don't think that site is on air yet. So that would be, there were 3 of the Pico poles in question, the Villanova University site, and then the only other one that I'm aware of is that T-Mobile has expressed interest to the township in co-locating on the tower that is on the township's property, on this property.
The one down the hill.
Yeah, the one right here. And in fact, I think there may be a tech team visit scheduled tomorrow to explore that further. But we've had communications with Steve and also with Mr. Granger, and they're pursuing that. So those are the only 5 sites that I'm aware of in Delaware County. In all candor, I don't think that those sites, even if all 5 of them are on air, it would cover every gap in coverage that in the township that T-Mobile has, and it's probably true for the other carriers as well. I know I live in the township, and we don't have any service for any of the, or very poor service for any of the carriers where I live. So I'm sure there are still other gaps and other needs, but there's nothing even in the planning stage that I'm aware of other than the ones that I've mentioned.
Okay, so we've reviewed your first presentation when you were here the last time. So now you're going to go over the second one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The new application that came in since we were last here is at 542 South Roberts Road, and it's very similar to the previous applications. There is a guy pole, a Pico pole, which is being replaced, and that pole, I believe, is 29 feet tall, the guy pole. It's a short guy pole. And the proposed replacement pole is 82 feet in height to the very top with the antennas. It will look identical to the pole that is proposed at the Bryn Mawr Avenue site. It's a little taller than that pole. That pole was 72 feet in height, I believe. And other than that, it's identical. I do not have photo simulations of that site, but as I say, it looks just like the other one. I've driven past the property, and I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, but there's the Children's Presbyterian Village, and it's in front of the Children's Presbyterian Village, which sits back a great distance. I mean, several hundred feet. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's a very large distance. And I didn't really see any houses around from that location. It's heavily treed. There are some fairly tall trees. That's probably one of the reasons why it has to be a little taller than the other one to get over the trees. But other than that, it's similar in every respect. I think there are 3 proposed antennas. It's the flush-mounted pole with everything painted brown to match the telephone pole. All the equipment is on the pole. There's nothing, proposed for the ground. And other than that, it's the same in all material respects. I do have the propagation maps that show the area that is intended to be covered by the new site, and I can try to put them here.
Is that these yellow ones?
Yes, yeah, you have those as well. I don't know if you want me to put them up or not, if it's necessary.
You could explain them to us, I guess.
Yeah, the one that says T-Mobile existing coverage without proposed site, it shows the existing coverage. The red dot is the proposed site. And you can see that area all around the red dot is white, which means an area of either no coverage or very poor coverage.
Which one is that?
This is I'm pointing to the proposed site right in the center, of that red dot.
Do you have the existing coverage?
There are other sites that are shown on here that are existing sites, approved sites.
Go, please.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, he's got it here. I'll return that on.
And I don't know if we can get them both at the same time, but I'll show you the
How do you turn
propagation
this thing
map with the proposed site. You can see that I'm pointing now to the proposed site on the propagation map that shows the future coverage with this site on air. And you can see that it provides good coverage in the area of the site. Obviously, to the north, there's still a significant gap in coverage up along, I guess that's Conestoga Road. And this wouldn't show the coverage that would be obtained from co-locating on the township property at 301 Ivan. That should help quite a bit more than these Pico pole sites will help, because these are not very high as far as telecommunications is concerned. That would be a much higher site, and we would get much better coverage from those than the Pico sites. But you can see that the areas where the coverage is picked up is mostly in these residential areas. There's some on the north side of South Bryn Mawr Avenue and some on the south side of South Bryn Mawr Avenue. It looks like it actually picks up a tiny little bit of the Blue Route as well. If you can see across from where it says South Ithan Avenue to the left of that, there's a little gap on the Blue Route, which this would also pick up. But most of the coverage that's being obtained is in the residential areas north of Bryn Mawr Avenue and south of Bryn Mawr Avenue, and Bryn Mawr Avenue in particular, along Bryn Mawr Avenue.
Anybody have any questions?
Steve, actually, it's a question for you, Steve, or Jim, is there a requirement that we be presented with photo simulations as part of this application? Because it would, previously, they've been very helpful in getting some sort of understanding of what it's going to look like.
I don't know, Steve, I've looked at the ordinance, I don't know if you want me to.
No, there's no requirement there.
That's correct. It's actually, if you're proposing a lattice tower or a monopole that's not within the right-of-way, I think there may be a requirement for photo sims in that situation.
Mr. Petrosa, the other question I would have is, even though they might not be perhaps immediately visible from the street, were any efforts made to contact residents in the area? Obviously, the institutional use is a different
Right.
question, but on the other side of Roberts Road, even though you may not be able to see them, I
Yeah.
think there are probably some houses.
There may well be. Driving by, I couldn't even see any houses, but, it's the time of the year perhaps, and, maybe you could see them a little better. But no, I don't believe that there was any effort to contact those folks. I'm not really certain that they'll even be able to see it. They might. I can't say for certain they won't. But those houses look like they're set back quite a ways from the road, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't show very well on the site plan. They just show the right-of-way area, really.
Will this be solely a T-Mobile pole?
Yes. It's difficult to co-locate on one of these utility poles. I mean, it just towers such as the one that exists on the township property, co-location is quite capable or quite easy. And on a monopole or any kind of a freestanding tower, the ordinance actually encourages people to co-locate, on the same pole.
Do we have any other questions?
Is this pole available for others to co-locate?
PICO will still own the pole, so they would have to first, I guess, obtain PICO's approval, and then they would have to presumably I don't know what the new ordinance is going to provide, but come back to the council and then ultimately to the township for any necessary approvals. But I have not seen a co-location on one of these utility poles. It may be a structural issue, and also the height of the pole tends to be an issue. They generally need at least 10 feet or so of separation distance between the antennas of one carrier and the antennas of another carrier. If you have a 150-foot pole to work with, that's pretty easy to do at 130, 140, 150. On an 82-foot pole where the center of the antennas is going to be a couple of feet less than that at about 80 feet, you'd right away be down to 70 feet. I think that would be possible that it might help someone's coverage. We don't really have access to, say, Verizon or Nextel or AT&T's coverage maps or where they have a gap.
So it's not anticipated is the point.
It is not.
And your master lease agreement with PICO, there's no exclusivity in terms of PICO not being able to enter into similar agreements with other carriers?
There isn't. I have had experience in dealing with PICO, even on the transmission towers, which are larger towers and where co-location would be more easily possible. There's some transmission towers in Concord Township that we were looking at, PICO towers there were monopoles, not what we're used to seeing for the transmission towers. And they wouldn't, AT&T was on one already, and the township said to us, well, why don't you go on the one AT&T's on instead of having to use another one? And we sought PICO's approval to do that, and they wouldn't let us do it. On the other hand, on larger transmission towers, we have obtained approvals. We did another one in Concord where both T-Mobile and I believe it was Sprint got approval to go on the same tower. They put some sort of an insert, a pole. It's kind of a monopole within the transmission tower, and they're able to get two carriers on that.
Any other questions? So I assume that we should, do we need a resolution? How does the parliamentary issue work on this?
Just take a vote And if you approve it, we'll then pass it on to, I believe, the planning
And
commission.
we're agreeing to pass on to the Planning Commission approval of the 2 T-Mobile requests for towers. Is that sensible?
I'm not quite sure. The last time they sent us directly to the Board of Commissioners, but we can work, whether we go to the Planning Commission or the Board of Commissioners, we can, I guess, talk about that subsequently.
Yeah, I
to the-
think it goes to the Planning Board next, and then they take it to the commissioners. Okay? Vote all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So carried.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Steve, would you report that?
I will certainly take care of it.
Thank you. Okay. Any additional new business? No? Public participation? No? You're leaving already. You don't want to hear the end of the meeting here. Okay. If there's no new business, make a motion to adjourn. So moved, approved. Steve, you want to take back all this technical stuff? I'm